You guys remember back when about 2 months ago when I started asking if anybody did or knew anybody who did custom artwork? Well, this is going to be the first video that I ever make that has commissioned artwork for anything on my channel. So with that being said, I need you guys to stick the whole way to the end of the video because there's going to be a lot that happens in the main part and in the outro. But without further ado, let's get into part 7 of What If Ash and Paul Traveled to the Unova region. I hope you enjoy. We pick back up with Ash, Iris, and Paul as the mysterious N introduces himself. Ash and Iris are excited to meet him, but Paul thinks something is strange. Something about N feels off, but with everything that's happened lately, it could just be his imagination running wild. N begins to discuss the events of last night's storm with the group, and Ash tells him how the storm knocked out most of the power in the Pokemon Center, and asks if anything else strange happened. Iris blurts out how Paul's Electivire went crazy and almost killed him. This gets N's attention, and Paul just glares at Iris, making her uncomfortable. N then asks, "Really? That sounds awful." Ash says, "Yeah, it was the strangest thing. Electivire seemed to be stronger than usual." N asks how they were able to stop Electivire if it wasn't listening to commands. Iris follows up, "Well, Ash and his Infernape managed to stop it," and says, "Really? Your Infernape must be very special." Ash says, "I wouldn't say that. We were just really in sync." N then asks if he can see this Infernape of Ash's. Ash, kind of surprised by this request, says okay and sends out Infernape. N greets Infernape and introduces himself. N reaches for Infernape, and upon contact, he gets a rush of emotions that kind of overwhelm him. Then, N says, "This Infernape has a rich history." This draws the trio's attention. N then follows up with, "Especially with being abandoned by you, Paul." Paul asks, "How did you know that?" N just says, "Infernape told me." Paul says, "What do you mean Infernape told you? It doesn't talk." N says, "While that is true, Pokemon do have emotions, and I can feel those emotions. Every feeling and experience they've ever had, I can sense, and I can see this Infernape has a special destiny." Those words echo with Ash and Paul, immediately taking them back to Eterna City in Sinnoh when Cynthia said the same thing. Ash says, "What did you say?" N says, "Infernape, it has a special destiny." "Why?" Ash says, "You're not the first person who has said that." N says, "Really? Well, then only the future will tell if this is true." This whole introduction has Paul questioning N even more, but he says nothing. Ash then asks N, "Well, since you have seen my Pokemon, how about you show us yours?" N says, "Well, that's something I can't do." Ash says, "Why?" The tone changes. N says, "Because I don't have any. I don't believe in confining Pokemon to those prisons. All they do is cause Pokemon pain." Ash says, "What? Pokemon aren't in pain. What do you know? You don't even have one." N tells Ash he has experienced the dark side of humanity and what they are capable of. It's only negative things. Ash tells N he doesn't know where he's developed his warped perception of reality, but it's not true. People and Pokemon can live together. Infernape then steps in to support Ash. When this happens, N reacts to a heartbeat, like something is reacting to Ash and Infernape. N's demeanor then changes again. He thinks to himself, "These two? No, it can't be who you were reaching out to." Ash then interrupts N's thoughts by calling to him. N snaps back and says, "Oh, nothing. Say, Ash, where are you and your friends headed to next?" Ash says, "We're going to Aspertia City. They heard there was a gym there that just opened up." N, out of curiosity of Ash and Infernape, asks if they wouldn't mind. He would like to tag along, as he is heading that way as well. Ash goes to say something, but Paul pulls him back. "Ash, wait. There's something off about this guy. I can't put my finger on it, but I'm not sure if he can be trusted." Ash says, "Yeah, something is definitely off, but I don't see any harm in him at least coming with us to Aspertia City. Look, N and Iris have really hit it off." Paul isn't comfortable with this, but he is outvoted by Ash and Iris. With that, the trio plus one head out, with Paul keeping a close eye on N. It takes about a week, and over that time, Ash and Paul spends more time training for this new gym. Paul is making progress as he is getting his confidence back. His timing with his Pokemon is back to normal with all except for Electivire. Paul is still hesitant, but he is trying to work with it. N notices the hesitation with Paul and Electivire, but says nothing. He just observes. But Ash and Paul continue to train. While this is happening, Iris fills in on Ash and Paul's backstory and their adventures in Sinnoh, and says nothing and just watches as the two rivals turn friends, train together. The next day, they arrive in Aspertia City and head straight for the gym. Upon arriving, they are introduced to Sharon, the leader of the new gym. Ash introduces himself and says he is here to challenge for a badge. Sharon tells Ash he likes the enthusiasm, but he wants him to know that this will be his first official gym battle. Sharon then pulls out a badge. "Ash, if you can beat me, then you will earn this basic badge." Ash then says, "Hold on, This isn't the gym that hosts the basic badge. That gym belongs to Lenore in Nakarine City. Chirin says, used to be. Lenore closed the gym, so I accepted the honor to reopen the gym here in Asperdia. Paul says, great. This has been a giant waste of time. I already have this badge. Ash excitedly says, yeah, but this is my chance to challenge for it. Chirin says, oh, so you already have this one, Paul. Well, maybe after my battle with Ash, we could battle. I would like to battle someone who's beaten Lenore. Paul says, there's no need. I already have the badge. Then he walks away. Chirin then turns to Ash. Are you ready for your battle? Ash says, you bet. So the two trainers take their position. Chirin says this will be a 2-on-2 battle. Only the challenger is allowed substitutions. Chirin then sends in his first Pokemon, Cinccino. Ash uses his Pokedex to get info on it. Then he decides to go with Dewott. The battle starts, and Ash tries to use its speed to his advantage, and he orders an Aqua Jet. But Chirin is ready. He orders a Tail Slap that deflects the Aqua Jet, canceling it out. Chirin tells Ash that he will have to do better than that if he wants to win this gym battle. Ash says no problem, as he orders Dewott to rush in with the Razor Shell. Chirin orders Cinccino to use another Tail Slap to deflect it, but Ash was ready for this. He orders Dewott to use one of its Razor Shells to defend, and the other one to attack. This allows Dewott to dodge the Tail Slap to get in with an attack on Cinccino with its Razor Shell. With Cinccino wide open, the Razor Shell hits with extra power. It's not enough to knock out Cinccino, but it definitely felt it and is now moving slower because of it. Chirin was caught off guard. He never faced someone like Ash, and he has to be on his toes. Chirin then orders Cinccino to use a quick attack to try and shift the momentum back in his favor, but it's met with an Aqua Jet. Ash then orders Dewott to use a Water Gun while they are in the air, and it hits Cinccino, forcing it into the ground. Then, as Dewott falls down towards Cinccino, Ash orders another Aqua Jet, and as it rushes in to Cinccino, Chirin orders another Tail Slap, and it catches Dewott in the air, knocking it down to the ground. This hit wasn't good for Dewott. It took a lot of damage. Ash calls for Dewott, telling it he knows it can still battle. He knows it has more endurance than that. Dewott struggles to its feet, and as it does, it starts to glow. Ash knows what this is. It's Torrent. This is the first time that Dewott has been able to access it. The battle is nearly over, and the two trainers know it. Ash orders Dewott to ready a Razor Shell. Chirin orders Cinccino to take a defensive position, and Ash orders Dewott to use Aqua Jet with its Razor Shells. Chirin, expecting Dewott to use one to defend a shot from its Tail Slap, knows that Ash can't defend all hits at that high of speed. Once Dewott gets in close, Chirin orders Tail Slap, but Ash doesn't order any defense from Dewott. Instead, Dewott only attacks, taking all the Tail Slaps in the process. Once the battle ends, the two Pokemon stand there looking at each other, and like looking in the mirror, they both collapse to the ground from the battle. Ash and Chirin recall their Pokemon. Chirin is impressed with Ash, but Ash is disappointed with himself. All of the training him and Dewott have done, and they still haven't won a gym battle since the Striaton gym. But Chirin interrupts Ash's inner conversation with hearing, that battle was great, but you will have to do better, Ash. Chirin then sends in his ace, Stoutland. Ash can tell that this thing has power. After using his Pokédex, he knows just what he's dealing with, and thinks back to Lenore and her Herdier. If he had trouble with that, and it was only a second stage, then this final evolution will be a whole nother level. Ash knows he only has one real choice. So, he sends in Infernape. As Infernape emerges from the ball and hears it again, a heartbeat. He thinks, is this the one you're reaching for? As he watches the battle, Paul can see that N seems to be taking a particular interest in Infernape, so Paul watches as well. Chirin has never seen an Infernape before, so he is curious on what it can do. He wastes no time and orders a Giga Impact, and his Stoutland rushes in, and it's fast. But Ash and Infernape aren't afraid. Ash orders a Flare Blitz to counter. The two Pokemon collide, canceling out each other's attacks. Infernape does take some damage, but it made its statement. It's not intimidated by Stoutland and Chirin. Chirin can see it in Ash's eyes. His focus has changed. It's on a razor's edge, and Infernape is the same way. Him and Ash are on the same page, and they have seen many battles together. Chirin refuses to be intimidated by the duo. As a result, the battle gets really intense, with both Pokemon exchanges attack, like Close Combat and Crunch. The battle draws out long enough that Chirin sees Infernape's true power. Blaze then activates, and this catches Paul's attention. How could this new gym leader push Infernape that far? And as Blaze erupts, N hears it again, a heartbeat reacting to Infernape, and just watches more intensely. With the activation of Blaze, the battle quickly becomes one-sided, as Infernape put Stoutland down with the Flare Blitz, earning Ash his third badge and tying him with Paul in his badges. Charon then presents Ash with the basic badge. He also thanks Ash for the battle, as he will always remember his first battle as a gym leader, and he's glad it could be with Ash. Paul then approaches Charon. Even though I have the basic badge, I would still like to battle you, Paul says. A one-on-one tomorrow, first thing. Charon is excited and glad to take Paul's challenge. Later that night at the Pokemon Center, the group has been talking for a while about the battle. Paul then asks Ash, "Hey Ash, today, during the battle, when Blaze was activated, it was like when Infernape fought Electivire. Did you feel it again?" This grabs En's attention. "What do you mean?" he asks. Ash just laughs nervously. "No, not this time." And says, "Well, what was it?" Ash says, "Well, sometimes when Infernape and I battle, it's like we are one. We can hear each other's thoughts and feel each other's pain. But lately, it feels like there's a third presence with us. Something I can't explain. It's like..." Then En finishes the sentence. "Someone is reaching out to you from far away." Ash says, "Yeah, that's it exactly." En is now interested in this boy, so much so that he is sticking with him and his group, as they could be the ones he's been looking for. The next day, they head back to the gym. En has no interest in seeing Paul battle, due to his history with Infernape. That is, until Paul sends out Electivire. Paul wants to use it at Ash's suggestion. As soon as it's out of its ball, En can feel it. The tension and uncertainty between Paul and Electivire. En then asks what's the deal with these two. Why does it seem like they have so much tension and confusion between them? Ash explains that Electivire and Paul have been a team as long as he has known them, but lately the two have been having trouble battling with each other. Kinda like there's trust issues. Things finally came to a head when Electivire was struck by lightning from that storm the night before we met you. En, shocked, "You mean that Electivire was struck by lightning from that storm?" Ash says, "Yeah, why?" En says, "Nothing, just interesting," as this battle now has En's full attention. The battle itself isn't too special. Paul and Electivire are working together, but their timing is massively off and they aren't of one mind. En takes notice of this. Paul, in the end, takes the win, but not because he and Electivire improve, it's because Electivire is conditioned for harsh battles due to its training with Paul in the past, so its endurance is just as impressive as Infernape's. With this battle behind them, the group then catches a boat from Aspertia City to Burbank City, as both Ash and Paul want to battle Roxy. During the boat ride, which takes about a week, Ash and Paul train more. They make some massive developments with their teams. Yamask ends up evolving into Cofragrius, and Tranquil ends up evolving into Unpheasant. Then, the more Ash and Paul battle, the more En comes to understand the two of them. This is how they communicate, and how their Pokemon and them become one. En then notices Carablast and Shelmet, and the struggles of the two Pokemon and their trainers. The week also allowed Paul and Electivire to work one-on-one. The boat had a great training area for trainers and their Pokemon. At the end of the week, the group arrives in Burbank City, and it is rather late. They will have to wait until the morning to challenge the gym. While formulating their strategies for the battle, Paul tells Ash that he would like to challenge first. Ash looks at Paul. Paul continues to say that the loss that he had last time has been eating away at him, and he needs the chance to make it right. Ash just smiles and says, "You got it." Then En comes over to talk with the two. He says while he doesn't support trainers and them battling Pokemon, he does support the happiness of their Pokemon, and with that, he would like to make a suggestion that could help them in their upcoming battles, but only if the two agree to it before he tells them what it is. Ash is more willing to agree, but Paul, as he still doesn't trust En due to him feeling like he is hiding something, is hesitant. But after some persuading from Ash and Iris, Paul agrees, mostly to shut the two up. With that, En walks them to another part of the Pokemon Center. When they arrive at the location that En was talking about, Paul asks, "What? Is this a joke?" En says, "No. Hear me out. Your Carablast and your Shelmet are having trouble getting in sync with you two." Ash, angry, says so, and then suggests that Paul and Ash trade the two Pokemon, as he feels that they would be better suited with the latter. Ash thinks about this, and so does Paul, cause now something that Champion Alder said is now being echoed by another. Iris, too, then chimes in and says, "I agree with En, surprising everyone." She says, "I've noticed it from day one, but you two can be so stubborn to talk to sometimes, so I didn't bring it up." Ash just stares at her, but then Paul says, "Okay, let's do it." Again, surprising everyone. Ash asks if he is sure. Paul tells Ash that he needs to learn to accept help, right? Well, if 3 different people are saying the same thing, then I think we might want to give it a try. Worst case is we just trade back. Ash then agrees, and they start the process. Once complete, the two trainers let their new Pokemon out of their balls. But what emerges isn't the two that were traded. In their place stand two new powerful looking Pokemon. Ash immediately freaks, claiming that Paul did something wrong. But Paul just says, wait, look Ash, the two Pokemon are familiar with their trainers. Paul pulls out his Pokédex. It reads, Escavalier, the cavalry Pokemon, and the evolved form of Carablast. They fly at high speeds, striking with their pointed spears. Even when in trouble, they face their opponent bravely. Then, Ash pulls out his Pokédex. It reads, Excelgor, the shell-out Pokemon, and the evolved form of Shellmet. Having removed its heavy shell, it becomes lightweight and can fight with ninja-like movements. Both Ash and Paul now understand what they meant. One defense and one offense. These Pokemon match their battle styles. Iris then says, I once heard that Carablast and Shellmet only evolve when they're close to each other. This must be what was meant. Then, Paul looks at his Pokédex and realizes something. He gets a grin on his face and says he's gotta go, and then he runs off. Iris asks what that was about. Ash says, knowing Paul, he's got a plan. He's gonna use Escavalier in the battle tomorrow. After making a phone call, Paul then spends the rest of his night training and strategizing with his Pokemon. The next morning, our group is at the Verbank gym. Ash, Iris, and N look on from the crowd as Paul challenges Roxy to a rematch. Roxy accepts, but Paul tells her he wants a full 6-on-6 battle. Roxy asks if Paul is sure about that. Last time he could barely handle 3. Paul tells her that he is. This is something he needs. Roxy says, okay, you asked for it, and the battle starts. Roxy then leads with her coughing, just like last time. Paul figured she would, so he sends in his first Pokemon, Torterra. Roxy is curious with Paul's choice, as she didn't see this Pokemon before. She orders Coughing to use Gyro Ball. Paul then orders Torterra to set up Stone Edge defense. Coughing is intercepted, taking damage as its own speed caused it to hit the stones harder than normal. This type of strategy is new to Roxy. She is impressed. Paul learned from their last encounter. Paul aims to control the battle. He feels like he lost his way, who he is. But this battle, though not the end, it will be the beginning to the road of recovering himself. Paul knows he has the advantage in this setting. Roxy can't change Pokemon, but she isn't going to give up so easily. She orders a Sludge Bomb, and Coughing starts to spin at a rapid pace, firing it everywhere. Torterra tries to defend, but some of it gets through, damaging Torterra, causing it to drop the Stone Edge. Roxy sees this, then orders another Gyro Ball, and it connects with Torterra. This causes great damage, but Paul was ready. As Coughing connects, he orders the Giga Drain, and Torterra latches onto Coughing, draining it of its energy rapidly. Coughing starts to spin to escape, and it manages to break itself free, but as it starts to get away, Torterra puts back up the Stone Edge wall, and Coughing gets caught in it. Then, Paul orders Torterra to use a Frenzy Plant that connects, knocking out Coughing and giving Paul the first lead. Roxy is impressed. Torterra is powerful, so Roxy matches the power with her next Pokemon, Scolipede. Paul chooses to stay with Torterra. This battle goes a little faster as Scolipede is able to maneuver around Torterra's defense and hit with its Toxic. Then, when it gets in close, it uses a Venoshock, but not before taking a Frenzy Plant at point blank range as Torterra gets knocked out. Scolipede is severely damaged in the process. Paul recalls Torterra and thanks it. After looking over Scolipede, Paul decides to send in his Pignite. The battle starts and Pignite takes an easy win when it uses an arm thrust to block a Venoshock, and then Paul wraps it up with a Fire Pledge. Roxy thinks to herself, I need to take control of this battle, so she sends in something with a type advantage, Crobat, but Paul won't give her the satisfaction and recalls Pignite for later. He then sends in his Sigilyph. Roxy can't believe it. Paul has had a perfect counter for each one of her Pokemon and their moves. He's using every advantage that he has. This is not the same trainer she fought last time. Ash, Iris, and N all watch from the sidelines, and Ash comments, this is Paul at his best. He is going to win. The battle between Crobat and Sigilyph is quick, as the two match each other blow for blow, resulting in a double knockout. Paul refuses to give Roxy any ground, and no matter how hard she pushes, he pushes back that much harder. Roxy then sends in her next Pokemon, Amoonguss. At this time, Paul decides to send in his newest strength, Escavalier, a perfect counter to Amoonguss, and Paul demonstrates this when its bug, steel typing, makes it immune to Roxy's poison from Amoonguss, allowing it to be taken out by a Twin Needle. Roxy's rhythm has been off this whole battle, as Paul has been the one controlling the tempo, but she hopes to turn it around now, as she sends in her next Pokemon, Toxicroak. Paul decided to recall Escavalier for now and sends back in Pignite. This battle gets intense, pushing Pignite and Toxicroak to the limit as they exchange poison jabs and arm thrusts. Ultimately, after being poisoned, Paul tries a Fire Pledge, but it is countered with a dig, knocking out Pignite. Paul then sends back in Escavalier. Roxy knows that Toxicroak has taken great damage, and it is now at a type disadvantage, so she will have to play this smart. The battle is a little one-sided, but Roxy uses dig to dodge most of Escavalier's attacks, but when she sees Toxicroak start to tire, she orders a high-risk close combat that connects with Escavalier, but Toxicroak is also hit with an Iron Head, ultimately knocking both out. This battle has come down to the wire, but Paul still has 2 Pokemon to Roxy's 1, so both trainers send in their next choice, and for Roxy, it's her last, but strongest, Garbodor, while Paul's choice is much more of a defensive option, Cofagrius. This battle takes a good amount of time, so much so that the audience has become restless, but this is exactly what Paul wanted. At the start of the battle, Cofagrius hit Garbodor with the Will-O-Wisp, but as a counter, Cofagrius was also hit with the poison at the same time. Because Paul set up Cofagrius to be a defensive wall with things like Calm Mind and Protect, this battle becomes slow, but Cofagrius ultimately falls due to Toxic's damage compounding faster than Will-O-Wisps. But Cofagrius did what Paul wanted it to do, wear Garbodor out. As Paul stands there, he clutches his last Pokeball in his hand. We've been at odds, and our struggles have been real. I know I haven't been the best trainer, no, best partner you deserve, due to my own self-doubts. But it's time we change that, Paul thinks to himself, as he sends in Electivire. Roxy knows that this battle will be close. She can see it. This whole battle has been different. The look in Paul's eyes has changed. He's focused, and Electivire can sense it. The battle starts. Electivire and Garbodor go at it. Every attack that Roxy fires is countered perfectly. Paul really paid attention in their last battle. Paul and Electivire seem to be on the same page, and in the crowd, N can feel it. They are becoming one, and N thinks to himself, could he be the other one? But he senses something else there, deeply buried between the two. Doubt. As the battle reaches its climax, Paul hears something, a voice in his head. Paul thinks it's just his mind playing tricks on him. Little does anyone know, another storm is surging above the gym, just like the one before. Suddenly, Electivire demeanor changes once more to an aggressive one, and it again begins to attack wildly, hitting Garbodor with a full power thunder, knocking it out. The attack comes with no command from Paul. As this is happening, N rushes outside, as Ash and Iris stare in confusion of Paul and Electivire. As N gets outside the gym, there's a storm raging violently above, striking the gym with lightning, and screams to the sky, no, he's not ready yet. You have to be patient. His heart and mind are still clouded, and almost as a response, lightning strikes all around him in what seems to be disapproval, not actually hitting him though. Back in the gym, things are getting out of hand. Ash and Iris choose to step in with Infernape and Leavanny. Paul is trying to reach Electivire, but it won't respond. It's too far gone. Leavanny does its best to shield the audience as they try to escape, with Roxy helping them towards the exits. Ash and Infernape stand at the ready as they call to Electivire. These two are of the same mind, and because of it, Infernape starts to grow brightly with Blaze, even though it hasn't taken any damage. Electivire can see this and wants a fight, as the only thing it can recognize right now is its rivalry with Infernape. Back outside with N, as the lightning is striking, his bag again begins to glow like before. This causes the storm to calm slightly and the lightning to stop. N thinks to himself, what is it, friend? Are you reaching out again? Then the bag glows with an intensity, and suddenly the storm vanishes. N then rushes inside the gym, and there stands Infernape, glowing bright red with its blaze activated. But Electivire then snaps back to normal, again not remembering anything, looking confused, and is shocked. He thinks to himself, these two boys, can it really be them? Later, after the gym is cleared and everything has calmed down, Roxy approaches Ash and Iris and thanks them for standing and protecting the crowd. She then approaches Paul and presents him with the Toxic badge. Paul then tries to refuse the badge, but Roxy insists. The whole battle, Paul and his Pokemon fought perfectly. She says even if Electivire hadn't lost control, you still would have won. Paul reluctantly takes the badge and tells Roxy to earn the badge he will get through to Electivire. Then the group takes their leave. Later at the Pokemon Center, the group is talking and Ash makes an announcement. He has decided not to challenge Roxy for a badge. Stunned, Paul and Iris ask why. Ash says, after recent events and everything that's been going on lately, and with all the stuff we've been through, I think we need to move on from this area. The whole problem with Electivire started when we came to this part of Unova, so it makes sense that we move on. Paul says, are you sure? Ash says yes. It's for the best of the group. So, the next morning, the group set out on a boat bound for Castelia City. The trip will take about a day. While trying to kill time, and ask the group if they want to hear a story of the heroes of Unova. Now, we switch over to Team Rocket. There in the desert north of Castelia City, they were able to find the source of power from the main meteorite that fell to Earth in its distant past. But there is a problem. It appears that an ancient civilization in the past discovered it as well, and built an entire city around it. As Jesse, James, and Meowth are heading up the excavation of the ancient site, the leader of Team Rocket, Giovanni, arrives on the scene. The trio informs them of their progress, and they have almost opened the chamber that contains the meteorite. Meowth then asks, what is so special? Why are we digging for this huge rock? Giovanni scowls at Meowth. You fool, it's not a rock, it's a source of power. But it's not just the meteorite I'm after. Confused, Jesse then says, well, what else is there? Giovanni explains that in the past, the sun was blocked out from the sight of the world. This affected everywhere on the planet, except for one place. It is said that an ancient kingdom had harnessed the power of the sun and used it to survive until the real one was able to return. Then, when the kingdom didn't need it anymore, they locked this power away as the guardian of their treasures. James then chimes in, ooh, treasures. So we're digging for valuables? Giovanni says, no, you dolt. Don't you see? The false sun they had locked away as a guardian, it was a Pokemon, and I think that meteorite was a way to control this Pokemon. So now, I aim to make its power my own. Then, they get word over the radio that they have broken the seal on the chamber. Giovanni smiles. At last, he says, as he and the others head down to the chamber. Once they arrive at the entrance, and once they open the huge stone slab of a door, they are met with the blinding light that engulfs them. After donning protective eyewear, making them able to see what is inside, it astounds them. A whole ecosystem with lush green forests, and at the center is the meteorite. Once they get close to the meteorite, above it flies a Pokemon that glows like the sun. Giovanni smiles. At last, my destiny awaits. As he flies to the top on his hovercraft, the Pokemon looks at Giovanni and lets out a loud cry, trying to intimidate this human. But Giovanni will not be intimidated. He shoots the Pokemon with a device that allows him to control the Pokemon with his hovercraft. Once the Pokemon becomes docile, Giovanni calls to it, Volcarona, you are now my property. You shall do my bidding. Volcarona lets out a loud cry in response to Giovanni's orders. As all this is happening, someone who doesn't quite belong to Team Rocket is hiding in the shadows, watching, relaying everything back to someone, a scientist in a white lab coat with glasses. It seems it's time we make our move then, he says as they mobilize their forces. He orders their mole to proceed with the backup plan once he is in the clear. With that, the communication ends. Giovanni looks to Jesse, James, and Meowth. Now we attack, he says. Meowth nervously asks where. Giovanni says, why not start with Castelia City? Back with our heroes, they finally arrive in Castelia City. Once they get off the boat, they are met by a familiar Pokemon, a Sandile, the same one that they battled back at the geysers. It wants to battle Pikachu. Ash is open to this battle as he and Pikachu want to stretch their legs after being on the boat overnight. The battle starts and it quickly becomes apparent that Sandile has been training for this battle, as it is far stronger than it was the last time that they encountered it. So much so that it gets the advantage over Pikachu, and when it hits it with a crunch, the electric mouse goes down, but this doesn't stop the ground type as it starts to glow and evolves into Krokorok. This makes the battle even less in Pikachu's favor, bringing on more harm to it. When Ash realizes that Krokorok won't stop, he sends in Duat to battle it and defend Pikachu. Duat is quick to put Krokorok down with a double Razor Shell, but it just doesn't want to stop. Krokorok keeps attacking, to the point that Ash has no choice. He has to catch it. Ash orders Duat to use an Aqua Jet that connects, and before Krokorok can recover, he throws a Pokeball, and after 3 shakes, he grabs his new Pokemon. Pikachu has sustained severe damage, and they have to get it to a Pokemon Center. Once they get to the Pokemon Center, they get Pikachu checked in, and it's bad. Pikachu will need a few days to recover. As the group gets settled in to the Pokemon Center, Ash wonders why Krokorok attacked them like that, specifically Pikachu, and says, well, maybe I can talk to it. I may be able to deduce what the problem is with Pikachu. Just as Ash pulls out the ball, they hear an explosion from outside, and the power to the center goes out. The generators kick in, but Ash knows that they won't last long, so everyone heads outside to investigate. Once outside, they are met with people running in fear as the city is in ruins, and the source of it is a man on a hovercraft and his Pokemon. Ash knows who this is, Giovanni. He runs to him and orders him to stop. Giovanni just laughs and asks, "And who are you to tell me what to do?" Ash announces himself as Ash Ketchum from Pallet Town. Giovanni then looks to Jesse, James, and Meowth. "Is this the same trainer you always fail against?" They reply yes. Giovanni says, "Good. Let's see if you're as strong as I've been told," and he orders Volcarona to attack. Ash knows this thing is strong. He can feel it. Ash wastes no time and sends in Infernape, who counters with a Flare Blitz, pushing back Volcarona. But that's not all. Ash is joined by Paul, who sends in Electivire. Paul is a little hesitant, but he knows Electivire is his best chance to help stop this thing. Both Infernape and Electivire succeed in pushing back Volcarona for a bit, but its power is just too much. It's like it's supercharged by an outside force. Even Infernape's Blaze only provides a little bit of relief in the struggle. Eventually, the duo is overwhelmed by the power of Volcarona, and Infernape, Electivire, and Paul are all knocked down due to its power. Giovanni just laughs. "You're so pathetic. No amount of resistance you put up can stop me." Ash and Paul stand up. They are both worn out. Paul doesn't know what to do. This is more than he's ever experienced. Ash says, "It's simple. We don't give up." Infernape then stands up and resonates with Ash. It won't give up, and neither will Ash. Paul and Electivire just look on in awe. And watching this, can't believe it. He is shocked. The truths of this trainer and his Pokemon are perfectly in sync. Just then, N's bag begins to glow brightly. He reaches into it and pulls out a brightly glowing white stone. N asks, "Is this what you were waiting for, my friend?" N then calls to Ash. "Ash, here, catch!" And he throws the stone. Ash catches it and asks what it is. N says, "Just trust me. It's reacting to you and Infernape." Then the stone levitates from Ash's hands and heads toward Infernape. Then, in a quick flash, light envelops the area. Once the light fades, Ash asks Giovanni if he's ready for round 2, as he and Infernape stand in opposition of him once more. And that's all we have for part 7. What do you guys think about this part? A lot of stuff happened. Both Ash and Paul earned a new badge. They had some evolutions to their team, and Paul is on a slow, winding road of getting back what he has lost. And how about Ash and his bond with Infernape and that surprise transformation at the end? Will it be enough to counteract Giovanni and put down Volcarona and save Castelia City? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed the video, please make sure you drop a like. And don't forget to subscribe, so that way you guys can be part of the Ronin clan. And if you like what ifs and you want to talk about that type of subject with other people, please join the Discord in the link below, as there are a lot of people in there that have the same mindset that you do. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter, because I post things that I'm doing in there real time that gives you a behind the scenes look of what is coming next. And I have one final announcement. While I was sick last month, a lot of people reached out to me in comments and private messages asking me if I had a Patreon that you guys could donate on. And to be honest with you, it's not something that I've set up, but it is something that I had considered. I wanted to wait till I got a little bit bigger before I set one up, but because you guys reached out to me and you seem to show some sort of enthusiasm for it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to set one up so that way you guys can make donations. So once this video has completely concluded, I'm going to post in the community tab what you guys would like to see for perks for different tiers and pricing suggestions. Let me know. But anyway, I'm Ronin Charizard, and that's all I have for you today. I will see you in the next video.